This is Daniel 11. I went through Charlene Forch's book about Daniel. This is a lot of what she has to say, and then I've kind of put in what I think. Yeah, here, this is the picture of many Tinkle Farson kind of thing, I think. When, was it the son of Nebuchadnezzar was in there, and then the Medes came and took him. The angel was writing on the wall his hand, and anyway, so this is Daniel was living in the first kingdom of 7 kingdoms in all Daniel. Okay, so Daniel lived in Babylon. So that's where he was when Gabriel came and gave him these visions. And Gabriel will explain the kingdoms to come. So Babylon is the first of 7. Okay. Okay, 11:1. First year of Darius the Mede, who conquered Babylon in 538. Okay, that was Gabriel. Okay, so Gabriel's telling him your future. The first thing that's going to happen is going to be Darius, and he's going to come in 538 and conquer your city of Babylon. Okay, and then 11:2. Gabriel says, "I'll show you 3 kings yet to come, Cambius and Sarmidus, and then Darius." And then the 4th, Xerxes. So Darius is the Mede and Xerxes is the Persian. And the 4th shall be far richer than they all, and he will stir up all against Greece. So the 4th one, Xerxes, will make way for Greece to come in. And then Greece comes in right in verse 3. The 3rd kingdom. This is the 3rd kingdom. So there's Babylon's the first, Medes and Persians are the 2nd, and then Greece is the 3rd. Remember that? And remember the beasts in Daniel 7? Or I can't remember where they are, Daniel 7. And anyway, okay, 11:3. Then a mighty king shall stand up, ruling with great dominion. And this is, as we've understood it, is Greece, and Alexander the Great, who defeated Xerxes in 331 BC. And then we move on. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom, when Greece shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken and divided toward the 4 winds. And his kingdom shall be plucked up for others. So after Alexander died, his 4 generals, as we have come to understand, distributed the provinces amongst themselves. So there's the 4 winds divided from Alexander the Great's his territories. And they are these guys here. Their names are wild. Sissander and Lycomus and all 4 of those guys. And they fought themselves, killing each other off from Alexander's death in 323 BC to 280 BC, where they were only 2 main countries left. And those are the main countries. I circled them there. There's basically Egypt and Syria on the top, where it's circled. And then the one in the middle, the circle, is Israel. So Israel's in the middle of this battle. And okay, so then 5. Now we talk about one of those 2 countries, Egypt and Syria, over Israel. One of them. In verse 5, Gabriel says to Daniel, in verse 5, the king of the south of Israel shall be strong with great dominion. So Egypt will be very strong. And then from 280 to 250 BC, these 2 countries fought Egypt and Syria with Israel in between. Yeah, they fought that whole time with Israel in between. And we move on to 6. Gabriel says, in the end of years, they will join themselves together. The king's daughter of the south, where Egypt is, of Israel, shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement So he's going to make an agreement with Syria. But she shall not keep peace forever. This is the daughter that he's going to bring up there. You know how they do that. Neither shall the king there remain. Then she shall be killed, she shall be given up, and her servants from Egypt, and her son also killed in Syria. The daughter was given to him, but then she was killed. History shows that the king's wife in Syria, who accepted the Egyptian daughter, became jealous, his wife, and poisoned the king of Syria, blaming it all on the new Egyptian wife. So they killed all the Egyptian people that were there. Conspiracy. Okay, and then, so there they are, they're having troubles, and they're up there in Syria. Then we go to 11:7, and Gabriel says, "But out of a branch of her roots shall her brother stand up." Okay, so out of a branch, out of the daughter's roots, who they just killed, will stand up. And her roots would be down in Egypt. So out of her branch, her roots shall her brother stand up. Come with an army up to the king of the north. He's going to go up there because he's upset, and shall deal with them, and he shall prevail. And history states he took the country of the north. So he came up there and he defeated him. He was upset and he defeated him. And then we move on to 8. 8 says, Gabriel says, "The king of the south shall also carry back to Egypt idols and princes and silver and gold." So there he is. He's going back home after conquering, and he's taken all this stuff back. I think he's even taken stuff that belonged to him in the past, things, gods and stuff, idols and stuff. So he's taking it all back. It says in verse 9, "He shall return into his own land, Egypt." So he's headed back. And then 10. This is about 219 BC. Gabriel says, "But the sons of the north," they're upset, "shall assemble a multitude of great forces." So there they are. There's the arrow. They're building their forces. And 11:11, Gabriel says, "And the king of the south in Egypt shall be moved with anger and will come forth to fight the king of the north," those sons. "But the sons of the north shall be given into the south's hands." So you see all the arrows. You got more arrows on the south than the north. So they're going to take them. Egypt's going to take Syria. And then we move on to 12. Gabriel says, when the south has beaten the north, his heart shall be lifted up. You'll be like, look at what I did. And he shall cast down many 10,000s, but he shall not be strengthened by this success. I think there may be reason to believe that, I'm not sure, but he went and maybe killed many Jews. I'm not sure, though. But it didn't lift him up doing that. Okay, so then we go to 13. Gabriel says, "The king of the north shall return with greater force after certain years." Okay? So Egypt defeats Syria, but after certain years, north is going to come back again. These battles just keep going on. And then we go to 11:14. Gabriel says, "And in these years shall many stand up against the king of the south, Egypt." There are a lot of them. "Also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves, but they shall fall." So basically the remaining Grecian people in the north of Israel will exalt themselves, but they will fail. Why does the north fail? History shows Rome will end up taking the cake. Yeah. But first, there's a fourth kingdom. Anyway, there's a fourth kingdom, and this is 11:15. Gabriel says, "The king of the north shall come and take the most fenced cities." And from what I understand, it's Sidon, and that's part of Egypt. So here they come. The north's coming down to take the fenced cities, and the armies of the south shall not withstand. So there they are. There's all their troops and whatnot going down to Egypt, and Egypt's not going to withstand because they only got one little arrow. 11:15. Why? Because the king of the north of Israel is now backed by Rome. In 65 BC, Rome conquers Syria. So there's their power. They always have power. 11:16. Gabriel says, "But he that cometh against him," I believe Rome, "shall not stand. And he," most likely Rome, "shall stand in the glorious land." He will stand in the glorious land. And that's, glorious land in Strong's had something to do with Jerusalem. Glorious land. It was a glorious land. And it was in the middle, and they liked, okay, anyway. So 16, Rome will stand in the glorious land, which by his hand shall be consumed. And history states Rome also came down, conquering Jerusalem in 63 BC, thus adding it to its empire also. So there they are, kind of, sort of, the Romans in Jerusalem. Okay, and then we move on to 17. Romans 11:17. Gabriel says to Daniel again, "He also shall enter Egypt," Rome, "with the strength of his whole kingdom and allies, and he," Egypt, "shall give him his daughter." So it looks like, and he, Egypt, shall give him, Rome, which is Julius Caesar, his daughter. But she will not stand for him. And this is a long, old story. History states that Cleopatra became Julius's mistress, and they had a child. But since Julius of Rome already had a son, Cleopatra's son would not gain the throne of Rome, so she joined with Mark Antony, also of Rome, and later fell into disagreement with Julius' son. And as the story goes, Octavius, the son, came into civil war, and he defeated Julius' long good friend Mark Antony. On and on. And then Antony commits suicide, is what history states. Then Cleopatra commits suicide, is what it states, rather than joining herself with Octavius, Julius's son. So she didn't want it, so she killed herself. This was the end of the king of the south, because Cleopatra was the last one there, and she died. So Egypt was now ruled by Rome, and everything else was too. So there they go, taking over pyramids. Okay, then we go into 18. Gabriel says, "After this shall he," Rome, "turn his face to the isles," like Africa, and Spain, and Asia, possibly, "and defeat many." So there he goes, defeating them. "But a prince of his own shall cause him," Julius's reproach, "to cease." And it looked to me like Julius of Rome was kind of on fire to take over, and someone caused it to stop. History states that Julius of Rome was attempting to form a dictatorship, and those under him did not want Julius ruling that way as king. So he stops, and what does he do? Oh, this is Caesar's legions. This must be a game. Yeah, war games. But it was interesting. Anyway, So what does he do? He stops battling and Gabriel says, "Then he, Julius of Rome, shall turn his face toward his own land, Rome, but he shall stumble and fall." Oh. And that's what history shows. History strongly states that Julius of Rome was assassinated by his own men in his own land at home. So he fell right there in his land. And then we come up to 4 BC, and Jesus is born around here. And then we move on to 1120. And Gabriel says, "Then shall stand up in his estate," because Julius just died, "a raiser of taxes in the glory of his kingdom." Yeah. "But within a few days shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor battle." So Julius, who just died, his son, will stand up. History states, after Julius of Rome dies, his son Octavius Augustus, he became king. And Octavius is remembered also in Luke 2:1. "And it came to pass," this is Christ, "came to pass in those days, there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed." Remember that? And in verse 5, "Joseph and Mary, being with child, went to their own cities, which was Bethlehem." Later, Gabriel says, "He shall die neither in anger nor battle," Julius' son. And that's what happened. He died in his sleep of old age. So it's interesting. Things kind of fall into place. Okay, then we move on. 1121. Gabriel says, "Now in his estate shall stand up a vile person." Okay, so Octavius is dead now, Julius' son. "And a man shall stand up, a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries." And it looks like this is Tiberius, who came afterward. History states Octavius ruled with his son Tiberius. Interesting. Getting confused. Octavius ruled with his son Tiberius. Okay, I see. For 2 years. And there Tiberius took the throne. Thus he came into power peaceably and under false flattering from his senate. But I guess Tiberius wasn't such a great guy. Okay. And then Luke 3:1 confirms that Tiberius reigned during John the Baptist. So there's Tiberius. So all these kings coming down further. 1121. Then we go on to 22. Gabriel says, "And with the arms of a flood, Rome, shall they be overtaken and shall be broken, and also the prince of the covenant." So, prince of the covenant, Jesus. And who would do it? Well, the Romans and the Jews, but the Romans, well, the Jews. So there's the flood coming, and it overtakes and breaks them. Yep, his faithful people and Jesus. And in Daniel 9:25 states Christ is the prince. He's the prince of the covenant. That's what Daniel 9:25. His people were killed along with himself. Okay, so there he is. Okay, so he's handed over to them. And in 23, Gabriel says, "And after the league made with him," the Roman Empire, the emperor, "he, the bishop, shall work deceitfully. he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. And history states the Roman Church gained power through the Roman government, so they made a league with them, but deceitfully they thought to change times and laws in order to gain power. And they became strong with a small people, didn't they? And there were few believers in Christ, but these became strong, some faithful and some wicked. Deceitfully, the Roman Church charged Passover to Easter. So this is another change they made deceitfully. They changed the day from the 14th to Sunday afterward, because they could. And this was to unite even the sun worshippers. He wanted to unite them all, everybody. And obviously the Sabbath of the fourth commandment was changed here too. They abolished not just Sabbath, but all the festivals of God. Yes. And then of course that bishop, I think it's like 1906 or something, he says, he says that. The Sabbath was changed and all other festivals. Okay, so we move on. There's the bishops. I like that picture. It's a fun picture. Okay, then we move on to a whole bunch of stuff. This is a good read. And if you can follow along, that's good. It's small on the top. But anyway, these are things that the church did deceitfully. And obviously, he did very well. In Ezekiel 45, in the first month, in the 14th day of that month, ye shall have the Passover, a feast of 7 days, unleavened bread shall be eaten. So Ezekiel, there's the Passover. This quote is found, in Eusebius' Ecclesiastical History. Now this is fun. This author and book, Ecclesiastical History, I found, is quoted even in our Bibles among our Ellen White quotes. Well, in this Bible, the Pacific Press with Loma Linda and all that. You know, that one with all the Ellen White quotes and stuff. So you can find Ecclesiastical History in here. And I think that is written by Eusebius. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff that he writes, but it's not in our Bible. These things were written around 300 AD, I think. And he wrote about the past. Bishop Eusebius writes, the dispute over the celebration of Easter grew more acute. Yeah, there was a dispute because they changed it. The Christians at Rome, who had come from the province of Asia from the east, how do I do this? Were accustomed to observe Easter on the 14th day, like God commands. 14th day of Nisan. Whatever day of the week that date might happen to fall on. They said, well, this is how we've been doing it, and this is how we think we should do it when we come over here to Rome. Let's see here. Just as they had done at home. Okay, so see, that's the Eastern churches. This difference inevitably led to trouble when it appeared in the Christian community of Rome in the West. So there's the East and the West. And they're having trouble. They're feuding, lots of feuding. Around 195 AD, Pope Victor, he decided, therefore, to bring about unity in the observance of Easter festival and to persuade these 14th day men to join in the general practice of the church. So here's, I don't know if he's the Pope quite yet, but he wants to unite everybody. He wants the Eastern churches. He wants to persuade them to obey the way that he wants them to be. Okay. He wrote, therefore, to Bishop Polycrates of Ephesus. This is the Pope Victor. He wrote to Polycrates of Ephesus and induced him to call together the bishops of the province of Asia in the East, and in order to discuss the matter with them. Okay, so he's calling them all together, all these people who are not believing, calls them together. Now this quote is found in the SDA commentary. It was written by Polycrates, the same guy that Victor was sending this message to, because he was, he was a lead man for the bishops in the East. So the Victor was talking to him to persuade all the others. Okay, so this is what the SDA commentary states about, I think, the ecclesiastical history. It was written by Polycrates as the response to Victor, Pope of Rome. So this is his response around 189 to 199 after Christ. Polycrates writes, "We observe the day neither adding nor taking away." He's talking about the Passover. "For in Asia also great lights have fallen asleep, which shall rise again on the day of the Lord's coming." He believes in the second coming. He believes in Christ. "Among these are Philip, one of the 12 apostles." He believes in the apostles too. "Who fell asleep in Hierapolis near Laodicea." Remember that place, Revelation? "And a daughter who sleeps in Ephesus." Yeah, that's in Revelation too. "And John the Revelator, who was both a witness and a teacher, also fell asleep in Ephesus." Yeah, we know that. Wherever he died. In Ephesus. "Also Bishop Polycarp, who was martyred in 155 in Smyrna." And then many say Polycarp was a student of John, the disciple, or John the Revelator. Anyway, he believed him. Anyway, also Thracius martyred in 170 in Smyrna. Bishop, and it goes on and on, Sarchagirus, who fell asleep in Laodicea. The bishop Papirius lies martyred in Sardis, awaiting the king from heaven, when he shall rise from the dead. That's the second coming. All these men, Polycrates says, observe the 14th day of Passover according to the gospel, just like Ezekiel says, deviating in no respect. And I also, Polycrates, the least of them all, do also according to the tradition of my relatives. He does it too. He obeys the commands to keep Passover, to remember it, some of whom I have closely followed. Bishops, okay. For 7 of my relatives were bishops, and I'm the 8th. So you can see where things could get passed down to him. Hopefully they'd be correct. My relatives always observe the day when the people put away the leaven. Oh, okay. For those greater than I have said, we ought to obey God rather than man. Yeah, Pope. I have summoned at your desire a great multitude. Now this is Polycrates, just like Victor says, gather them together and persuade them. And he says, I have summoned at your desire a great multitude, all the bishops, and they, beholding my littleness, I'm not a nothing major, gave their consent to this letter. They agreed, knowing that I have always governed my life by the Lord Jesus. So there it is, the East and the West. And then the last bit, this quote was written by A.T. Jones, remember that guy, in 1888. Oh, and the Sunday Law. Okay, Jones writes, the arrogant pretensions of Pope Victor, the guy who was talking to Polycrates, of Pope Victor of Rome, the arrogant pretensions of Victor of Rome, who tried to secure power over the whole church by first declaring forcefully in behalf of Sunday Easter. Then Victor wrote an imperious letter to the prelates commanding them to imitate the example of the Western Church. So there's his letter, sending it to them. We just read it. And he wants them to imitate his example in respect to the time of celebrating the festival of Easter, which is Passover. The Asiatics of the Eastern churches, who were faithful, answered his requisition with great power and resolution, that they would not depart in this manner from the custom handed down to them by their ancestors. And upon this the thunder of excommunication began to roar. And that began the split of what is it, the Orthodox, the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the Western Church, Rome and the Pope. I guess you can go to these Orthodox churches and they still celebrate. At least they remember Passover. Anyhow, they don't remember it on the Easter. They obey Easter, but they don't obey it the way Rome does. On Sunday, they obey it the way the Lord says, on the 14th, even though they changed the name. Okay, and then we move on. That was a whole bunch of stuff. But hey, he's deceitful, and we should remember it. 11:24. Gabriel goes on, and he says, "He, the Pope, shall enter peaceably, even unto the fattest places of the province. And he, the Pope, the bishops, the church, or something like that, shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. And he, that church, he shall scatter among themselves the prey and riches, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds for a time." So there's his power. He's going to try to take the power from among himself, kind of thing. We just read what wicked things the bishop did by changing these times and laws and excommunicating faithful believers. And history states Polycrates, who the bishop of Rome wanted more than anything to persuade in these things, was murdered on his return trip back to the faithful Eastern churches. So Polycrates was murdered, and I wonder why. He disagreed, so they shut him up. Maybe. This fourth kingdom of Rome and its new church power indeed did do which their fathers and fathers did not do before them. So these are kind of my interpretations and the interpretations in here. I'm sure the Adventist Church has their interpretations. Maybe they're the same. I don't really know. I should know. Anyway, 11:25, we move on. Gabriel says, "And he," the church, the bishop, "shall stir up his power." The bishop, I say bishop because for a while they were bishops and not popes. "So he, the bishop, shall stir up his power against the king of the south with a great army." Okay, in the south it was Egypt. "And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great army. But he, Egypt, shall not stand." So I got this picture of these chess pieces. They got the Roman pieces and I don't know why, that they're on the chessboard and, they're fighting. Anyway, so there goes Rome to take over Egypt. How's this working? Okay, well, history states that Arius, the bishop in Egypt, embraced the heretical teaching that Christ was a mere man. Okay, this is later in time. Okay. So the church began splitting again. Okay, so Rome's coming down and he's saying, Christ is more than a man. This is what it looked like to me. And then we get into, there's the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Trent. And they both declare the power of Rome. And for some reason I jumped to 11:30. I don't know why. I think I must have got tired or something. Anyway. I got a page there. Okay, well, this is, Gabriel says, "For the ships of Chittim shall come against him." Shall come against Rome. This is kind of simple, but anyway, the Strong says Chittim is bruisers. And the Hebrew, the ships of Chittim, are the appointed bruisers. And so, the ships of these appointed bruisers shall come against him, Rome, and he shall return grieved, and he shall return to have intelligence with them that forsake the holy covenant. So here they come. They're taking over Rome. Whoa, that can't happen. And here's Attila, King Attila the Hun, an ally to Rome in 444 AD. He invaded Rome, and by 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire, it crumbled. So there's the Roman Empire. Now this is kind of deep because there's so many different aspects to this Roman power and everything. Anyway, the Western Roman Empire crumbled about 99%. Okay? And the compromising pagan Roman Empire, the fourth kingdom, has now fallen. Okay? And then we move on to 31. So Rome is now taken by barbarians, something like that. Now 31, now Gabriel says this is the fifth empire. This is the fifth empire of Rome. And this is their religious and political power. This is their fifth power. Now Gabriel says to David, "An arm shall stand on his part." So maybe arm shall stand on the church's part. He's gaining power. "And they, the church, shall pollute the sanctuary, and shall take away the daily." There's the daily. "And they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate." Now this is a verse to remember, and a confusing one. History states Emperor Justinian gave complete recognition to the Roman Church as the highest authority in 538. And that last 1%, remember I said 99% of the Western Empire crumbled, that last 1% who invaded Rome was wiped out, leaving the church with no objectors. I think she was stating the ones who were left were like the Vandals and the Heruli and the Ostrogoths or something. You know, those ones of the beast. Okay, so then we move on, and here's an interpretation. The arms will stand for the church. The church, they will pollute the sanctuary with false worship. And the new authority will take away the daily. The new authority will take away the daily. They will establish the abomination of desolation. They will take away the daily. That's one everybody wants to know. I certainly want to know. And honestly, it's confusing. The daily, I've heard it's the Sabbath. I've heard it's a sacrifice. I've heard it's the way she puts it, which is different, would be like this. The church, they will pollute the sanctuary with false worship, and the new authority will take away the power. It's the power passed down through kingdoms. It's an interesting way of looking at it. And the reason she says that is she believes it coincides with the other visions. Anyway, I hope we understand that soon. And then they will establish the abomination of desolation, the papal power. This is the big power. Okay, confusing. Gabriel says, "And such as do wickedly against the covenant, he, the church, shall corrupt by flatteries, lies. But the people that do know their God shall be strong." So here's the wickedness against the covenant, the church, "and shall corrupt by flatteries." It just means so much, but I can see But the people that do know their God shall be strong, like the Waldenses and whatnot, way back when. I don't know. I can see flatteries as being. They shall corrupt by their flatteries, their power, their gold, and their confessions, and their rituals, and their holidays, and their indulgences for the lost. Possibly. So they will corrupt through their powers that way. And then we go to 11:34. Gabriel says, "And they that understand among the people shall instruct many." So here's the people with an understanding. "Yet they shall fall by the sword." This is interesting. "They shall fall by the sword and by flame." Reminds me of John Huss. "And by captivity they will fall. For many days." So he added that there. For many days. And these faithful people will teach, but also die in many horrible ways. For many days, possibly 1260 years, the church had this authority from 538 to 1798. And that's basically what he did. He persecuted. Oh, that's a wild picture. If anybody didn't like that picture, tell me, because that was kind of... I think that might have been photoshopped. But you get the idea. Yeah, the Pope. I don't know the Pope. He may be a very nice guy, and he probably is. But he must know a few things that I probably don't know. And maybe they look like that. So we go on to 34. This is confusing. Gabriel says, "Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help." And the word in there is helping. And I looked it up and it just means a help, and it's confusing. "But many shall cleave to them with flatteries." So many will cleave to them with flatteries, which would be that power, the Roman power, the church, their flatteries. So will God help the Protestant movement, maybe? They shall be helped with a little help. Okay. Then we go on to 35. Gabriel says, "And some of them of understanding," here's the understanding people again, "shall fall." Oh, here it is again. They're falling. "Like us. To try them," this is interesting, "to try them, to purge them, and to make them white, even to the time of the end. It is for a time appointed." Well, it looks like either the church is going to be trying and purging and trying to make them white, or the Lord is working in them. But that's too wild for me. Anyways, "and it shall be for a time appointed." So Gabriel adds that. So maybe this ends in 1798 when Napoleon takes the Pope. So 1798, okay. History states Napoleon was atheist, okay, and was fed up with the Pope. So he sent General Berthier to arrest the Pope in 1798. So in 1798, the Fifth Kingdom falls, which is Rome, the religious and the political authority. And Napoleon intended that there would never be another pope. Yes, he just didn't like it. And this is interesting. Revelation 13:3. John sees a vision. It says, I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wandered after that beast. Oh, wow. So the Fifth Kingdom is wounded in 1798. He is captured. And now verse 36 refers to a king raising himself above God. Okay, and then history. Now the king of fierce countenance in Daniel. Yeah, It's in Daniel. Now the king of fierce countenance from Daniel 8:23 rises slowly from 1798. See, he's wounded. To our latter time, his deadly wound is almost healed. And then we go into Daniel 11:36. So his wound is deadly, but it's healing. Gabriel says, and the king shall do according to his own will, and shall exalt himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. I believe he definitely will do that at least one day, and shall prosper till it be accomplished. So he will keep rising till it be accomplished, till the end come, or till his wound is fully healed. Maybe. So this king will exalt himself above God until it's accomplished. Those are wild pictures. I can't imagine seeing Jesus on earth being quite that wild. Then we move on to 37. Gabriel says, neither shall he, the king, regard the God of his fathers. Okay. This is the Pope, the king, the church. They shall not regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god. So no women, nor any god. For he shall magnify himself above all. Who is practically a king? The Pope of Rome. And who regards the Pope as practically God on earth? It seems that way. When I look at it, kissing and bowing, and the church has always had a different way with women, like that verse says. They claim celibacy, and soon enough he will magnify himself and have zero regard for God. So it looks like that text kind of falls into place, but maybe there's something else there. If there's something else, tell me. And then we go into 38. Let's go. 38. Gabriel says to Daniel, but in his estate, in that king's estate, shall he honor the God of forces. That's wild. A God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and pleasant things. So this king will honor a God of forces and do so with precious everythings. And what church comes to mind when I say that? Well, this may not be what it means. Well, forces, I'm sure there's more wild forces behind just that statue of Peter and Mary up there. He's the statue of Mary. It's, are you kidding me? Okay, and did you know that the Vatican has 390 idols? They have 390 statues that have to be cleaned by the maintenance. They got to clean them in the Vatican. There's so many. Look at that guy. They got to dust him. Got to dust Peter, and then they can kiss him. Daniel 11:39. We move on. Gabriel says, "Thus shall he, this king, do in his strongholds." Oh. With a strange God. That's wild. With a strange God. He shall do this in his strongholds. Whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them, maybe the rulers, to rule over many. Okay? And shall divide the land for gain. Wow. This king shall worship a new God, and has the power to set rulers over land that he divides. It's kind of what it says. And he worships strange gods. Those are some wild pictures. You know, everybody talks about this whole finger thing, the goat horns or whatever. And, you know, it could mean that, or it could just be him dancing around. But it looks like he's doing something. Anyway. Oh, that's Anton LaVey or whatever of Satan Church or whatever. He enjoys that little hand signal. Okay, so the strange god. Okay, strange god. He will, in his strongholds with a strange god, he will worship. This reminded me of, the strange fire. And Aaron's sons made an unacceptable strange fire I think they were in the sanctuary, and were killed by God, just like that. Whoosh. Aaron's sons, brother of Moses. Those guys just didn't figure it out. So there's strange fire, and here's strange gods, his forces. Okay, we move on. Sixth kingdom. Okay, well, this gets a little more wild, and I only have a few minutes. Okay, religious, political Rome. Okay, this is the sixth kingdom. Gabriel says, "And at that time of the end shall the king of the south push at him and the king of the north, and the king of the north shall come against the king of the south." Okay, so here's wham. Like a whirlwind, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overthrow. Okay, so north shall come against the king of the south. So the north will come to the south like a whirlwind. So he's going to beat him. So here's the thought. If the Roman church was the king of the north before, they could be the king of the north still. And after the deadly wound of the church in 1798, okay, back there, Napoleon realized his people were mostly Catholic. So in 1801, only a couple years later, Napoleon reestablished the Pope back into Napoleon's empire, because there were so many Catholics. So if the Catholic Church became the king of the north, it's all combined, and geographically, Egypt was below, who did not believe in God at all. So here's the north, the south. The unbelievers in Egypt. May the same spirit of atheism be manifest in this king of the south, of this day right here. This is what she points out, at least. It's wild, but it's interesting. History states the Pope's power combined with the USA, like kind of here. Yeah, I wasn't around, so, or maybe I was. Was I? So the Pope's power combined with the USA brought down atheistic communism in 1989. Okay, I was a little baby. So the Catholic power pushed like a whirlwind and then entered those atheist countries, overflowing them, maybe with Catholics. Okay, now this gets into more of the future. This is 41, so there's time. Reagan and Pope conspire, and they want to take out communism. Anyway, these are more doodling interpretations. Gabriel says, "He, the king of the north, shall also enter into the glorious land, and many shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand." Okay, so they're going to escape out of his hand. These ones here, Edom and Moab and the chief of Ammon. Okay, but he will enter the glorious land, and many shall be overthrown. So the king Pope will come into the glorious land, Jerusalem maybe, or where are many of God's spiritual Israel? Well, I do believe there are a lot in our country and in the Protestant countries. So they may come here. But some will escape. Maybe God's faithful. Maybe his 144,000. Then we move on. There he is. He's at the Dome of the Rock. He's in Jerusalem because he wants to be there, but he can't. And there's some, he's making buddies with our country. And he makes buddies with all the countries. This is interesting. The Pope certainly did that. He was always buddy-buddy with, the countries in the past. And it seems he's kind of done the same now. And soon enough, he will be buddy-buddies with everybody. Okay, then we move on to a little more. 1143. Gabriel says... I didn't really get into that, did I? Did I? 42. Oh, this is 42. Gabriel says, he, that power, papal power, shall stretch forth his hand upon the countries, and the land of Egypt will not escape. So there he goes, stretching forth his hand. So the Roman church may take over the world. Upon the countries, and Egypt will not escape. Okay, then we get into the seventh kingdom. Okay. The papal power over everything. Okay, so this is the final kingdom. Okay. Oh, yeah. I didn't write that. I thought it was more funny than anyway. 1143. Gabriel says, "But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over the precious things in Egypt." And then he says, "And Libya and Ethiopia shall be at his steps." And you can remember Revelation 13:17. John says, "And he causeth all rich and poor and free and bond and to receive a mark that no man might buy or sell." Okay, so here's this power taking treasures of gold and silver, and it aligns with Revelation. Okay, so Libya and Ethiopia, so it happens, shall come to this papal authority for gold and silver and, well, food, I don't know, money anyway. History states Libya was very poor, while Ethiopia had much wealth. So he fulfills John's prophecy. He will cause rich and poor the right to buy or sell. So that's an interesting way of looking at it. So there he is, taking over. And then we move on to 44. Gabriel says, "But tidings out of the east shall trouble him." Uh-oh. Oh, that's not a very nice picture, but I didn't know what to put in there. Tidings from the east shall trouble him. I think they're gonna trouble that guy right there. Revelation 7:2. John says, "And I saw another angel ascending from the east," just like Daniel, just like Gabriel was telling Daniel. This is John. "And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of God, and he said, Hurt not the earth until his servants are sealed." All right? Gabriel goes on. So there's the four winds, and there's the angel telling them to back off for a minute. 44b. Gabriel goes on. "Therefore he," the papacy, that power, "shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly make away many," to kill many. Looks as though he's going to do that, doesn't it? "The papal power will be upset at the reformers like in old times, and will have fury to destroy them." Maybe a death decree of old, just like of old. Anyway, we move on to a little more. That was 44. This is the last verse in 11. Gabriel says, "And he," that power, that papal power, possibly, I'm saying possibly, so I don't know, "shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas." Seas are, could they be people? "Plant himself between the seas in the glorious holy mountain." So might the papal power set itself between the seas of people in that glorious holy mountain? May it be Jerusalem? Doesn't belong to him right now. Daniel refers to Jerusalem as the holy mountain. So there's Jerusalem, the holy mountain. So if we read it over, "And he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain." So if Daniel referred to the holy mountain as Jerusalem, then it could be Jerusalem. So anyway, and there's 45a, there's 45b. Gabriel goes on, "Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him." Uh-oh. Poor guy. And Daniel 8:25 says, "He shall stand up against the prince of princes." This guy is going to stand up against the prince of princes, and who is that? We know who that is. That's our creator. "But shall be broken without hand." And then we go into one last verse. "Michael stands up, and a time of trouble such as never was, since there was a holy nation. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, and many that sleep in the dust shall awake." There it is. And many of them shall sleep, shall awake. That's the good part. And all this other stuff is pretty wild stuff. But I suppose I'm learning, and if I could share anything with you, then that's good too.